Donald Trump's entire trade agenda just got obliterated by bananas. Yes, the fruit. What started as tough talk on tariffs has spiraled into price hikes, global embarrassment, and economic gibberish so bad even Walmart is slipping. But before we get to the fruit-based humiliation, let's rewind, because this all begins with Trump pretending he's already won the trade war.
Yeah, Mr. President, you have a deadline coming up on trade in 2 weeks. Which countries, if any, on trade, on tariffs, sir, which countries, if any, are close to agreements with the administration?
Well, that's an interesting question. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal with probably 4 or 5 different countries. With the UK, it was a great deal for both. And we're in the process of making some others. But ultimately, in fact, Scott is here, and Howard Lutnick, these 2 guys have been doing an incredible job, and the people that work with them have been doing an incredible job. But, you know, we have 200 countries, you could say 200 countries plus. We can't do that. So at a certain point over the next week and a half or so, or maybe before, we're going to send out a letter. We talked to many of the countries, and we're just going to tell them what they have to pay to do business in the United States. And it's going to go very quickly.
Oh yes, the imaginary China deal again. For months now, Trump's been dangling this supposed great deal with China like a toddler showing off a crayon drawing. Proud, loud, and completely delusional. And guess what? That deal, it doesn't exist, not in this dimension. Remember when Canada was almost on board until Trump threw a tantrum at the G7 because he thought Mark Carney might have looked at him sideways? Yeah, deal dead. He keeps saying everyone wants a deal like he's some kind of trade magnet. But here's the thing, when every meeting ends with an awkward shrug and a plate of cold fries, maybe, just maybe, you're the problem. He even name-dropped Mr. Japan once, like he was trying to conjure trade deals like a wizard with half a wand and no spellbook. The truth is, these countries aren't backing out because they're afraid. They're backing out because negotiating with Trump is like trying to play chess with a squirrel on Adderall. And now, even his own team seems to realize that trying to push this nonsense is starting to backfire hard. Want proof? Well, it involves bananas. No, seriously, the banana meltdown is coming, and it was the beginning of the end.
And his tariff chaos has nakedly increased the cost of goods. The estimates are that for consumers in my area, suburban Philadelphia, $2,000 at least a year increases on goods. I'll give you an example of one. Bananas. What's the tariff on bananas? Americans, by the way, love bananas. We buy billions of them a year. I love bananas. What's the tariff on bananas?
The tariff on bananas would be representative of the countries that produce them.
And what's that tariff?
Generally 10%.
Correct, 10%. And Walmart has already increased the cost of bananas by 8%.
But as countries do deals with us, that will go to zero. As countries do deals with us, that will go to zero. But the cost is on the American consumer now and on the businesses with the confusion now. Mr. Secretary, I believe you know better. I believe you recognize that a trade deficit is not something to fear. I believe you know that predictability, stability is essential for businesses. I wish you would show that truth to this administration. And I yield back.
Time of the gentlelady has expired.
Would you mind, Mr. Chairman, if I make one quick comment to the end? Would that be okay?
I'm sorry?
Would you mind if I make one quick comment to the representative?
Sure. Please.
There's no uncertainty if you build in America and you produce your product in America, there will be no tariff.
We can't produce bananas in America.
Building in America and paying no tariff is very, very clear.
We cannot build bananas in America.
So just to recap, Trump's trade strategy has gotten so absurd, we're now talking about bananas. Yes, bananas, a fruit we can't even grow here. And thanks to Trump's tariff roulette, they're now 8% more expensive. Why? Because of a random 10% tariff slapped on imports. And the excuse? Just build it in America. Sure, let's plant banana farms in Detroit and see how that goes. This isn't policy, it's economic improv. Remember when tariffs were being slapped on penguins? No plan, no logic, just Trump being Trump. At one point, an AI was apparently deciding which products to tax. Honestly, explains everything. Even his own people are starting to panic. And now, right here, we're seeing why the administration is finally trying to walk this disaster back.
U.S. may ease tariffs on produce that can't be grown here, official says. The Trump administration may consider exemptions on tariffs for goods that can't easily be grown inside the U.S., such as cocoa beans or coffee, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins says. Currently, those goods are included in across-the-board tariffs, and Democrats have attacked Republicans for raising costs. Everything is on the table right now, Rollins said in an interview with the Wall Street Journal and another news outlet. I do think that the certain products that we can't produce here, that it's important to have here a full understanding and robust strategy that supports all of the above, keeping groceries low for America, making sure inflation comes down as promised, but also pushing our products around the world.
So now they realize if we don't grow coffee in America, maybe slapping a tariff on it isn't genius economics? It took months to get here, and all they've discovered is basic logic. You can't tax your way to buying local bananas if local bananas don't exist. At this point, I don't think they even know what a tariff is. They just say it like it's a magic word, and now they're quietly backing off, pretending this was the plan all along. But let's be honest, this isn't strategy, it's surrender, and it's cruel too. Prices went up for nothing. And speaking of cruelty and stupidity, Trump's budget just dropped, and Senator Murphy absolutely torched it. Next clip, total incineration.
I mean, the only people that matter to Republicans right now are corporate CEOs and billionaires. Everybody else doesn't matter, because if you don't belong to Mar-a-Lago, you aren't a human being, according to this version of the Republican Party. And that is deeply sad. Even people like Josh Hawley, who were, kind of saying the right things for a while, maybe the Republican Party shouldn't be kicking the working poor off their health care, have fallen in line and are apparently going to vote for this thing in the end. If you are anybody except for a very, very rich person who can show up and pay the membership dues at Mar-a-Lago, you do not matter for this Republican Party. And you are seeing that on display right now, every single amendment that they reject.
And yet what's interesting is that working class people do see Donald Trump as somebody who sees them. And that's part of the reason why they say they voted for him. And when asked about the Democratic Party, they say the Democratic Party has moved away from us and what we care about and what we need. They don't see me any longer. This is what they say. I'm not sugarcoating it. So how do the Democrats, if as you argue, the Republicans really only care about the Mar-a-Lago set, how do the Democrats convince these voters that they were fooled?
Well, I mean, the first thing we need to do is just explain what this bill is. And, the polling varies. Obviously, it's a deeply unpopular bill, but there still aren't enough people who know what's actually going on here. Because you're right, a lot of people, heard Donald Trump say during the campaign, and they've heard him say over the last few months, we are not cutting Medicaid. I mean, he still says that. And yet this is the biggest cut in Medicaid in the history of the country. 24% of Americans, working Americans, get their health care from Medicaid. They're going to lose it under this bill, all to finance a tax cut for his Mar-a-Lago friends. We've got to tell that story all around the country. I was stuck here this weekend, but I was due to be in Wichita, Kansas. I was due to be in a deep red state because Democrats have got to be all over the country explaining to people that they got duped by Donald Trump. But then the second thing we need to do is stop offering incremental solutions. I mean, when this fight is over, yes, the Democrats are going to have to tell people what we're for. And that should be a massive increase in the minimum wage. That should be making it a whole lot easier for people to join labor unions so they can boost their wages. That should be breaking up these big monopolies, corporate behemoths that are keeping wages suppressed. People don't want marginal changes to our economy. They want the Democratic Party to be for really big, bold ideas. And if we pair those really big, bold ideas together with a constant focus on shouting from the rooftops about this bill, the most massive transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the wealthy in the history of the country, then I think we have a shot to win back a lot of those working class and poor voters that did vote for Trump in this last election.
This is the quiet part, screamed out loud. If you don't own a yacht or a Mar-a-Lago membership card, the GOP simply doesn't care. Trump promised to protect Medicaid, then gutted it for a billionaire tax cut. And working class voters, fooled, lied to, then left holding the bill. But Murphy nails it. Democrats can't win by whispering policy memos. They need bold, roaring solutions that shake the system, raise wages, break monopolies, protect unions. That's how you earn trust again. And with this, the million-dollar question finally has an answer. How do Democrats actually win back America?
On the subject of Democrats winning, what'd you think of the Mamdani win for the Democratic primary here in New York City? Is that a roadmap for what the Democrats should do?
Well, to an extent. I mean, listen, there are certain things that he stands for and says that I don't agree with, but I think you have to pay attention to the fact that you had a candidate in New York City that was talking every single day about the cost of living, and he was proposing really big, sometimes radical ideas to take power from folks who have way too much of it, like the big realty companies that are jacking up rents in New York City and transferring it to regular people. He did have a laser-like focus on cost of living, on shifting power to people who don't have enough of it. And I think if the Democratic Party, writ large, spent as much time or as big a percentage of our communications time talking about the cost of living as Mamdani did in New York, we'd probably win a lot more elections.
So what happens when a Democrat actually talks about rent, wages, and power? Apparently, they win. Who would have guessed? While some of Mamdani's ideas might have made centrists sweat, his relentless focus on cost of living struck a nerve, and voters listened. Murphy's right. If more Democrats sounded like they actually live on Earth, not in some think tank bubble, they'd sweep elections. Forget the buzzwords. Talk about the bills piling up. That's what people care about. And if Mamdani's win is any clue, it's not about playing it safe, it's about getting real. So here's the next big thing.
Part of the reason why I think Republicans have been so successful in telling people that they're going to fight for them and that these Medicaid cuts aren't really Medicaid cuts or is the argument that they're taking it away from people who shouldn't be here in the first place. They're saying they're going to undocumented immigrants. They're the ones stealing from you. They're the ones that are making your lives harder. They're the ones that are suppressing wages. What should the Democratic Party line be on immigration? Because that does seem to be what people are able to grab onto. The ones that voted for Donald Trump, they will say, I don't like this idea that undocumented immigrants are getting more benefits than I am. So what is the Democratic line on that?
Okay, first, we shouldn't have any shame or any hesitation in coming after the central lies that they tell. Medicaid does not fund health care for people who are here without documentation. So this bill has nothing to do with taking people who are here illegally off of the rolls of Medicaid. Medicaid doesn't cover those people. Second, we need to attack the idea that immigrants pose a very unique safety threat to American citizens. This fact may be inconvenient for Republicans, but people who are new to this country commit crimes at a rate lower, not higher, than people who were born in the United States of America. So don't have any shame in telling the true story about immigrants here in the United States. But second, yes, we have to take the question of border security more seriously. For a long time, voters didn't think we cared about it because Republicans talked about it 10 times more than we did. I spent all of 2023 and 24 writing a big, tough bipartisan border security bill that put billions of new dollars in border security, that fundamentally changed our asylum laws, that would make it harder for people to come here if they didn't have a compelling asylum claim. And I think Democrats should be boldly running on a lawful, compassionate way to get tough at the border. We shouldn't hide from that issue, as I think we did for a long time.
Yeah, that was a bill that looked like it was going to pass. It was a conservative bill, conservative-leaning bill, but Donald Trump got involved while he was running for president and sank it among Republicans. All right.
This right here is the GOP's favorite trick. Blame the immigrant. When the bills go up, when healthcare disappears, when wages stagnate, just point to someone with an accent and call it a day. But Murphy isn't buying it, and neither should anyone with half a brain. Medicaid doesn't go to undocumented immigrants. That's not just a talking point, that's a fact. And immigrants statistically commit fewer crimes than US-born citizens. The real con? Republicans tanked their own border bill, not because it was too soft, but because Trump didn't want Biden to have a win. It's never been about solutions. It's about fear. And Democrats, it's time to call it what it is, a lie wrapped in racism. So yes, hit back, tell the truth, and don't flinch. If you liked this breakdown, hit like, smash that subscribe button, and buckle up, because what's coming next, you won't believe it.